The Prince's Crusade Kingdom of Jerusalem. As demonstrated by Henry Pyrrhon in Mohammed and Charlemagne, Europe's collapse into a so-called Dark Ages was largely attributable to the Muslim conquest of the Mediterranean, which choked Europe's access to international markets. After Charlemagne's death, his precarious empire fragmented under the attack of the Vikings and Magyars. In its wake, the peasantry were subjected to a system of feudalism solidified, particularly in France and the Low Countries. In the countryside, private castles were erected by local seigneurs without imperial permission to fend off barbarian attacks. Small trading centers grew around the castles, and eventually served as sites for periodic fairs. By the end of the 11th century, Western Europe was gaining greater economic integration. This internal explosion of urbanization provided the financial strength that emboldened the West to undertake the Crusades in an attempt to retake the Holy Land from the Muslims. 1. The Crusades were a number of attempts to recapture the Holy Land, which had fallen to Islamic expansion as early as the 7th century. The First Crusade, 1095–1099, was called for at the Council of Clermont on November 27, 1095, by Pope Urban II, c. 1035–1099, a former monk of the influential Abbey of Cluny, who called for a military expedition to aid the Byzantine Empire, which had recently lost most of Anatolia to the Seljuk Turks. Clermont was some 200 miles from Troyes, in the influential county of Champagne, town of Rachi de Troyes, 1040–1105, the greatest alumnus of the Colonimus Academy in Mainz, and was reputedly descended from the royal line of King David. 2. Rabbi Shlomo Yizashaki, known as Rashi, was the leading Jewish figure who dominated the second half of the 11th century, as well as the whole rabbinical history of France. He was descended from the Makir Colonenus line through his mother, whose brother was Simeon the Great, rabbi of Mainz. 3. His teachers were students of his relative, Gershom ben Judah. Rashi was the author of complete commentaries on the Bible and on the Babylonian Talmud, and famously, his first comment on the first verse of Genesis, which might be the best-known exegesis of the Torah, asserts the God-given right of the Jewish people to possess the land of Israel. Rashi's hometown of Troyes was the site of the famous Champagne fairs, which sparked an international trade, that according to Janet Abu Lughod, in before European hegemony, represented a critical turning point in world history, giving rise to Europe as a modern economy, and assisting it in leaving behind the Dark Ages. 4. The King of France granted the privileges of the Champagne fairs to the Knights Templars, a crusading order founded in 1119, and named after their headquarters in the site of the Old Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. 5. At the time, Champagne was governed by Hugh, Count of Champagne, c. 1074, c. 1125, a founding member of the Templars, who frequently received Rashi as an honored guest. 6. Hugh of Champagne was a member of a network of primarily Frankish nobles who embarked on the expedition to the Holy Land, since known as the Prince's Crusade, founding a legacy of chivalry remembered in the legends of the Holy Grail, the symbol of their dynastic descent from King David, the bloodline expected to produce the Messiah. In Judaism, Mashiach, often referred to as Melech Mashiach, is to be a Jewish leader, descended from the paternal Davidic line through King David and King Solomon. He is expected to accomplish the unification of the tribes of Israel, the gathering of all Jews to Eretz Israel, the rebuilding of the Temple in Jerusalem, the ushering in of a messianic age of global universal peace, and the annunciation of the world to come. Thus, the families of the Prince's Crusade, although ostensibly Christian, appeared to have participated in an attempt to reconquer the Holy Land and establish one of their own as King of Jerusalem, in expectation of the coming of the Messiah. Godfrey was only one of several leaders of the Crusade. Pope Urban had first gained the support of two of southern France's most important leaders, Adhemar of L'Epuis and Raymond IV, Count of Toulouse. Other leaders Urban II recruited throughout 1096 included Bohemond of Taranto, a southern Italian ally of the Reformed popes, Bohemond's nephew Tancred, Godfrey of Bouillon, his brother Baldwin of Boulogne, later Baldwin I of Jerusalem, Huy, Count of Vermandois, brother of the excommunicated Philippi of France, Robert Curthose, brother of William II of England, and his relative Stephen, Count of Blois, and Robert II, Count of Flanders. The Crusaders represented northern and southern France, Flanders, Germany, and southern Italy, and so were divided into 4 separate armies that were not always cooperative, though they were held together by their common ultimate goal. 7. Ultimately, the Prince's Crusade not only succeeded in the recapture of Anatolia, but also conquered the Holy Land, and culminated in July 1099 in the reconquest of Jerusalem and the establishment of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Godfrey, who was joined by his brothers Eustace III and Baldwin of Boulogne in the First Crusade in 1096, played a key role during the successful siege of Jerusalem in 1099. He was the first ruler of the Kingdom of Jerusalem from 1099 to 1100, but avoided using the title of king, choosing instead that of princeps. For his exploits he was included among the ideal knights known as the Nine Worthies, 9 personages who personify the ideals of chivalry established in the Middle Ages, along with the Trojan Herod Hector, Alexander the Great, and Julius Caesar, Joshua, King David, and Judah Maccabee, King Arthur, and Charlemagne. Godfrey's role in the crusade was described by Albert of Aachen, the anonymous author of the Gesta Francorum, written in 1100 to 1101, and Raymond of Aguilers, a participant in the First Crusade who co-wrote Historia Francorum qui separunt e Jerusalem, with Pons of Balazon. William of Tyre, c. 1130 to 1186, writing his history of the Crusade about 1190, records to the tale of the Knight of the Swan from whom Godfrey and his brothers were descended. The tale was repeated in the Crusade cycle, where Godfrey was the hero of numerous French chansons de geste. The legend of the Knight of the Swan, most famous today as the storyline of Wagner's opera Lohengrin, based on Wolfram von Eschenbach Grail story Partival.